Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel, and today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine on the 29th of May. Yesterday I told you that today we will discuss the situation in Kherson Nikolaev area on the south of Ukraine and the main goals for the Russians and Ukrainians for the next week. But before that I would like to update you regarding Sieverodonetsk. This is the town. You know that these days, the Russians are trying to encircle this town and the Ukrainian forces that are located in this town. And yesterday in the evening, the Chechensky leader Ramzan Kadyrov told us that the Russian forces, with help of Chechensky Spetsnaz Akhmat and with the forces of Lugansk People Republic, managed to establish control over the civilian part of this town. If you take a look at this map, you can see that this town, Sieverodonetsk, consists of two parts. This one, the west part, this is the industrial zone. This is black lines is the railroad. So this is the industrial zone. Let's take a look at this map. See that there are warehouses, railroad, some industrial buildings. So we can say that it's something like Azovstal area, but in Sieverodonetsk. It's less fortified, of course. It's not so big as Azovstal, but nevertheless it's the industrial zone. And we know that the biggest problem for the Russians in this campaign is to take control over the industrial zone. And if you take a look on the east side of this town, you see that there are buildings, houses, offices, and so on. So it's like civilian part where people live in. And according to the Chechensky leader, this part of the town was taken by the Russians. And the Russian sources map updated their map. You see this gray line, these gray dots. If you remember yesterday, this line was just on the suburbs, just on the edge of this town. But starting from the yesterday evening, the Russian source map has been updated. And now you can see this gray line like moves right in the middle of the town. So somewhere here on this street, along this street. The Russian sources are saying that it was a very successful offensive attack, that they were planning to establish control over this town for a week, but later they correct their plans and they decided to take this week in three days. But the soldiers from this town reported that they managed to take this area for 3 hours. Of course, maybe it's some part of speculation. We'll see the updates. We're gonna see everything what happens. But I give you my opinion that I think that the Ukrainian forces, they retreated from this area. Of course, maybe some of the forces that were located in this town were killed by the Russian forces, but I think that the majority of these forces retreated. If you remember a few videos ago, I told you that there was a conversation between Zelensky and Zaluzhny, and if you remember, I told you that Zelensky gave the right to Zaluzhny to give such an order as retreat, in case if there is a very big chance of being encircled. And I told you that there was another note about 2 days that if Zaluzhny decided to retreat from Sieverodonetsk, he could do it like in 2 days from the Wednesday. And I told you, and we calculated that the day the Ukrainians can leave this town is the Friday evening. And yesterday and Saturday evening, according to the Russian sources, according to some of the Russian sources, the Ukrainian forces left the civilian part of this town and moved towards the industrial zone. So they regrouped, according to the Russian sources, according to some Russian sources, they regrouped and moved to the industrial zone, the place where they can easily cross the river and connect with their main forces that are located in Lysychansk. For now, I can't tell you if it's true or if it's like fake. I don't know this, but I see that this map was updated. I saw this report from the Chechensky leader, and I'm not sure that he is lying. I'm sure that there is some success, and the question is if the Ukrainian troops really retreated or there was something else. So we'll see, we'll follow this situation, and I'm sure that in a day or two or three, this map will be updated if it's true. Now let's move towards Kherson. This is our Kherson area. This is town Kherson. It's in the south of Ukraine, on the top, on the north of Crimea. This is Kherson, this is Nikolaev, and this is Odessa. You can say like our triangle, Kherson, Nikolaev, Odessa triangle. And yesterday in the evening there was an offensive operation by the Ukrainians. And this morning the Ukrainian military authority announced that they managed to do a very successful offensive operation, that they managed to push the Russians from this territory, and from now on the Ukrainians are keeping very nice positions in this area, and the Russians is in much worse position than they was before. So it's like the result of this offensive operation, the result of this effective offensive operation according to the Ukrainian military authorities. Now let's discuss this operation in more details. You see that this red line, this red territory, the territory under the Russian control. And the territory without any color is the territory under the Ukrainian control. There is a green border and the gray border. The green border is the territory of the Russians that is totally, entirely under the Russians. And the gray border means that the territory between the gray border and the green border is the area of gray zone, where the main heavy clashes and the towns that located in this area belongs to nobody. So one day one forces, another day another forces, and so on. And right on the edge, right on the red-green border, there is a town by the name Davidov Brody. This is the town. This is the town, this is the river Ingumets. This is the town. This town is located on the north from the Kherson, on the east from Nikolaev, and on the south from Kryvyi Rog. This is the David Brody. This is it. You know, and we know that during my previous videos we discussed almost the Kharkiv area, Donbas area, Mariupol, and we almost didn't discuss anything about the Kherson area. Now I'll tell you that there has never been any news of any fightings, of any heavy clashes from this region at all. We know that there is some artillery duels between Kherson and Nikolaev, but we never heard that there was any heavy clashes, frontline clashes, trenches clashes, and so on. The only town we discussed in this area is Alexandrovka. And by the way, as you can see, according to the Russian sources map, this town is under the Russian control, and the West sources map still saying that this town is under the Ukrainian control, this town. But we are talking about Davidobrody, this town. As you can see, the West sources map has been updated. Now they're showing us this blue-gray cloud. That means that this territory is under the Ukrainian control. Yesterday, this area in the morning, according to the Russian sources, and these sources was under the Russian control. So what can we say? We can say that we can discuss just the facts, and according to the fact, we see that both maps, either the West sources map and the Russian sources map, are saying that there was something. You see that this green line, this is the border, and there is a gray line. And I told you that the area between the green line and the gray line is the territory where the heavy clashes are, the gray zone. And as you can see, but if we are taking a look at this side of the map, we see that the gray line is on the Ukrainian side, and in this case, the gray line is on the red side. That means that now there is a question about the territory that was under the Russian control before. So we can say that the Russian source map confirmed that there was something in this area, something near Davidbrody, this town. Now let's discuss this town in more details. You know that because of that fact that there were not so much heavy clashes in this area, and we can say that this region, at least this region, was we can say more peaceful than any other region, and there is there is a river, you see. If you get look at this map, you see this river in Gumets. It's a very long river, and there are a few bridges in this area. Most of them are destroyed, but the bridge that located in this town, David Brody, wasn't destroyed. Hey, this is the bridge, and as far as I know, this town was something like a custom, something like a border, and people, civilians from both sides, from Ukrainian side and either from the Russian side, could cross this bridge. So it wasn't like a front line, it wasn't something like you can't cross. The regular civilians, they might cross this bridge, they should pass some blog posts, show some documents, the reason why you're crossing this area. So it was like something like a real border in peacetime. So there wasn't any clashes here. Maybe there was some negotiations and agreements between Ukraine and Russian authorities. So they decided not to destroy this bridge and to keep this bridge just for these purposes, for crossing purposes. So the Russians could cross, not the Russians, but the civilians that were living in this area under the Russian control could cross this area towards the Ukrainian side. So it was something like a border. So that's why, at least as far as I understand, Russians didn't expect that Ukrainians would attack this area, because there was some kind of agreement that this is the peace area where like civilians can use for their purposes. Meanwhile, the Ukrainians started to collect their forces somewhere on the northwest from this town David Brody, in this area. And they prepared a very big group. It was like just one BTG, battalion tactical group. And they used this BTG. They collect these forces and did just one fast and short jump, like very fast, very aggressive. And with this, and because of that fact that this town, we can say, call it like, was a peace town, where there was like maybe just the officers who control these crossing of people and nothing else, because nobody expect that there would be attack. The Ukrainians with their BTG attacked this area, crossed the river, and established their bridgehead in this area. And then they started to spread their territory, to improve their territory, and so on, their bridgehead and so on. But of course, the Russians are saying that they control this BTG. They, using the satellites and using the drones, they saw this group, this Ukrainian army, and they saw that they were planning to do something. But as far as I understand, they didn't understand what exactly they were planning, or maybe they understood, but they didn't bother them. And the Ukrainians used this situation and attacked the Russians. This is the plan of the Ukrainian attack. As far as you can see, they crossed this town, Davidovbrod. In this area, they moved there a lot of forces, a lot of tanks, armored vehicles. More than that, they blocked every single town along the river with their attacks, with their artillery attacks. And these attacks froze these forces, and the Russians couldn't effectively move their forces towards Davidovbrod to block the Ukrainian attack. This is the version of the Ukrainian forces that, like, according to Ukrainian forces, they managed to establish bridgehead in this area and take and capture this territory. The Russian sources are saying that this operation was failed by the Ukrainians. They had a lot of losses. They were forced to move back, and they were forced to retreat from this position. So we have at least two versions. The Ukrainians are saying that this operation was pretty effective, and we see this update immediately. These West sources map updated themselves very fast. The Russian sources are saying that there was something, but no updates, no even icons in this area. And according to the report, according to the result of this operation, according to the Russian sources, the Ukrainian lost around 210 soldiers. The Ukrainian lost around 20 tanks, not 20 vehicles. That includes tanks, armored vehicles, and so on. They're saying that the Ukrainians were captured in this trap, that it was some kind of artillery bag, and the Russians, they started shelling this area with everything they have. And this part, like 210 soldiers were killed, these vehicles were destroyed, and the rest of Ukrainian forces didn't try to cross this river anymore, and they stand on this side of the river. But this is the version that we have today. Of course, tomorrow we're gonna see some updates. We're gonna see what really happened there. So let's wait and we'll see what's next in this area. But I'll give you my opinion regarding this offensive operation. And for better understanding, let's compare this offensive operation, this Ukrainian offensive operation, with the Russian offensive operation that the Russians attempt to do near the town by the name of Belogorovka. This is it. Of course, the situation is completely different, but just like there are a few same things that both parties try to cross the river. The Russians crossed the river using the pontoon bridges. The Ukrainians crossed the river using the simple road. There were heavy clashes in Davidbrod. There were heavy clashes in Belogorovka. Both sides, either Ukrainians or the Russians, got into the artillery back. The Russians, we know that Ukrainians spotted the Russians in this area, started bombing it. The Ukrainians, they also were spotted in this area and they were also covered by artillery. So we can say that something is very similar, but let's discuss in more details. If we are talking about the Russian offensive operation, we can see the classic offensive operation. Yes, it wasn't successful. Yes, we know that. They tried to use surprise effect. No, the same thing, yes. There is a surprise effect, and the Ukrainians also were trying to use surprise effect because the Russians didn't expect them. The Ukrainians were going to attack the peace town using this road. But the thing is that when the Russians tried to make their surprise effect, this front line was synchronized with the other front lines, and meanwhile the Russians were trying to cross this river. They started their offensive operation in Rubizhnoye. It was a very heavy offensive operation. The Russians were trying to establish control over the manpowder plant, over Voivodovka. They were attacking this town heavily. More than that, the Russians started their offensive operation near Popasna. It was the days when Popasna fell. If you remember, by the time when there was operation near Belogorovka, near this area, the Ukrainians in Popasna was in this plant, and like in a few days Popasna fell. So it was a lot of offensive operation, and it's like the classic. When you're doing offensive operation in one area, you can't rely on this area, because if you are doing just offensive operation one time and using just one single road, it's not very effective, because in this case your enemy can concentrate all his artillery against you, and the Ukrainians, they did like that. There was a few ways they could stop the Russian attack in Rubizhnoye, they could stop the Russian attack in Popasna, but they decided to concentrate all their artillery in this back, and they were pretty right. It was the right decision. But we know that as a result of those offensive operations, Russians, they managed to establish control over entire Rubizhnoye, and we know that, as the Russians call this area as a flower, we know that the flower has bloomed. So that was the classic offensive operation. And if we are talking about the Ukrainians, we see that there's just one road Ukrainians used for this operation. They attacked using just one road, using Davidbrod. And that's why I'm not sure that it was an offensive operation. Yes, it was something. Maybe their goals was not to establish bridgehead in this area. Maybe they were planning to do something else. And for example, if Russians would do this offensive operation, we would see like another attack from this area towards, like, to cut these flanks. Another attack we would see in this area. Another attack we would see towards Nigirovka. So there would be a lot of attacks more than that. Another attack we would see somewhere in Kryvyi Rog, in this area, just to froze the Russians' reinforcement, for example, because if you're attacking here, it's not a problem to move there some reinforcement, and it's like I think that just a day and after that there would be a lot of Russians and they will push Ukrainians back if there are Ukrainians on this side. So if you're doing offensive operation, you need to attack from many sides, to freeze the reinforcement, to freeze the artillery, because all these road of attack, like from Zaporozhye towards this area, from Kryvyi Rih towards this area, from this area towards this David Brody, towards Alexandrovka, every single road is very important for the Russians and the Ukrainians. And in this case, the Russians, they would have to choose where they should concentrate their artillery. Because of that fact that there were no other roads, the Russians chose this area and bombed this area. More than that, if it was an offensive operation, why Ukrainians didn't start their operation towards Bile Island? So there are much more questions than the answers. So I understand that it was some kind of offensive operation, but the main goal was not to establish bridgehead in this area. I'm sure that in a day or two the Ukrainians will be moved from this area, but there were some other goals. And for now I can't understand what was the plan. Maybe it was like Reco in combat, to understand how the Russians act in case of aggressive Ukrainian actions. I don't know. Maybe the Ukrainians wanted the Russians to move their fleet towards the coast, because we know that Ukrainians get some missiles from Denmark, and using these missiles they can destroy entire Russian fleet. Maybe this was the plan. I don't know. Their main goal and idea wasn't just to establish bridgehead in this area. They wanted to do something else. But for now, I can't tell you exactly what were they planning to do and what was the real purposes of this offensive operation. And that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, and enjoy your weekend. Bye bye.